Hi guys, this video is all about the Power BI interface, so let's walk through it. So in case you have never worked with Power BI before, this video is where you start. In case you have worked with Power BI before, then you might skip this video and start with the next one, okay? Alright, now when you open Power BI Desktop for the first time after you downloaded it, again it's for free, you will prompt with this kind of interface. And here you can see actually this pop-up window with you can select get data when you want to import data. You can do it here directly, but you don't have to do it here. You can do it later on in Power BI interface as well. Okay. You see your recent sources, so you can open recent sources you've worked with before. You can also see what's new because Power BI currently is really updating it each month. So each month there's a new version with new features involved. You can go to the forums in case you have any questions, or to the blog where they also talk about what kind of new features they have and all about Power BI itself. And you can also watch some tutorials if you want to do that. Okay. So this is the basic interface. So I'm closing this now. And in this case, now this is the standard view. This is what I personally call the canvas. But if you hover over that, you can see that it's a report. You have a report view, which is this first one. The second one here is the data view, where you can take a look at your data. So currently I have no data because I haven't loaded anything. So that's empty for now. And the third view is the relationship view. Okay, so here is where the magic happens when we're talking about connecting different kinds of tables or different kinds of data sources which have a common field. In case you're familiar with SQL Server, with SQL itself, the language, then you know that here we can create relationships between tables in order to get the data in our report view later on. Okay, so this is the start. Okay, and then you have home view modeling. So in this case, you can see, and also data, of course. In my case, is German here, but don't worry about that. You have the standard things like paste, cut, copy, format. So in case you have worked actually with any kind of Microsoft product, so is it Microsoft Excel, for instance, or PowerPoint, then you should of course be familiar with these things here. Okay, so I told you already before that you have another option to get data or to put data into Power BI, which is this get data option here, and you click directly on it or download it. Click on this little download arrow here, and you can see the most common sources, what's called, so Excel, Power BI Service, SQL Server, analysis services, and so on. So all these basic things, as well as a blank query, which is also often very helpful. For instance, if we want to import a date table, we will do this later on. Then we can use a blank query, or in case you want to simply copy a certain kind of query you already have done before and you want to use this or all the query steps you have created onto new data, which is actually in the same kind of format as the last one. You could also copy paste your code, all the steps with a blank query into this new Power BI file, and you can then use it to transform the new data in the same way. Okay, so it saves a lot of time. And beside that, of course, you could also click on it simply by that, and then you can see all the data sources which are available that we can extract data from and put it into Power BI. So here you can see all, and in this case, see a lot of like IBM, Oracle databases, SQL Server analysis. We already talked about that. SHP, HANA, for instance, and also Azure, of course, all kinds of cloud services, Salesforce, and so on and so on. So also in case of you want to, or you are into marketing, then of course you could also use Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics, which is also available. Not everything necessarily in the free version, because here we are using Power BI Desktop, the free version. So, but if you use Power BI Pro, or you buy a Power BI Pro license, then of course you have even more options than you have here to import data from. Okay, but already here we have a lot of ways how we can import data. Okay, so this is it for the get data. The recent sources, we already talked about this. This is the same as the pop-up window, if you remember before. Then we have enter data. So this option is also quite helpful, because here we could enter data into Power BI directly. We could create our own table, and we will do this when we create a measure table, for instance, later on. So, and this comes really handy. You simply click on it, and then you can start entering data and give your table a name. So if I do that for now, if I click on it and we wait just a few seconds, then here I can create my table and can rename this column. I can enter some data in here, simply put something in here, and I can name my table, and then I can load it. Or in case I want to edit it in the query editor, of course I could also click on edit. So these are the options here, and as soon as, yes, the data will be lost. Let me get rid of that. Okay, and as soon as we have the data inside, then it would appear here on the right in the fields menu, because here will appear all the tables. You'll see that in the next video. All the tables you import into Power BI will be appearing here. There's one exception, of course. In case you want to hide certain things, then wouldn't appear here. Okay. For instance, if you have a table with, let's say, 100 different kinds of columns, and you only need 3 or 4 columns in your report, then you either get rid of it, which I would recommend personally, because you should always keep the data you import into Power BI to a minimum, because otherwise, of course, it takes much more time to compute, of course, and more data also means that Power BI is slower. Okay, that's simply the way it is. And so, but you could also hide certain columns, and if you do this, then they wouldn't also not appear here. But as I said, we'll do that in the next couple of videos, of course. So what else? Well, we have a partner showcase here. You can basically click on it, and then you get links to the Power BI homepage or one of Microsoft homepages, and then you can see some kind of visualizations from Microsoft partners. You could also insert visuals. You could insert a visual here or a new page, but you do not have to create a new page here. You could simply click on here on the plus sign, and you enter a new page, and here's page 2. And if you want to rename it, simply double click on it, and you can type in any kind of name you want. What else do we have? Well, we have this new visual icon, but you could use it here, but you could also, of course, use it here from the visualization section. So you can see we have different kinds of charts, like stacked column charts. We have line charts. We have scatter plots, pie charts. We have donut charts here in this case, which are not available so in Tableau. Just if you're familiar with Tableau, you can create them in Tableau, but you have to play around a little bit. Here they are standard. Okay, standard visualization. We have the tree map. We have the maps. Different kind of maps. You can create filter and so on. Okay, so there are a lot of options already, but in case this is not enough, then there's always a way to import more. So you could import them either from a file or from store. I simply click on the 3 dot signs here, and I could import a new visual, or I could also go in here and say from store I want to import something, or from file. But if you want to import it directly from the Microsoft Store, then you need to be logged in. Okay, this is one precondition. But of course, you could also download it from Microsoft and then import it here with the from file from your desktop. And the visuals are for free, so you could simply try them out, so no extra cost. Okay, then we have, of course, these standard things. So in case I want to import some text, I can simply click on this text box icon here, and if I click on it, then you can see there's my text box, and there's my format window, and then I could import some text. So hello Udemy, and this is my text here, and then of course I can format that the way I want it, so I can make it bigger here. I could make it bold, I could underline it, could center it, I could put a link to it if I want. So if I want to do this, I can add a link to that, and of course I could also change the color. If I want to do this, I could use a custom color, and in case you do not know the color, simply use the hex codes formats you can here. You can then simply use your own color. So in case you're working for a company, for instance, and every company normally has its own color palette, so you could insert them here, but you could also import it in I think a JSON file, import it directly into Power BI, sorry, and then you have actually all the colors from your company within Power BI. Okay, all right. So if I've created this, then I could simply drag and drop that. I can play around with it on the canvas, and I can simply drag it wherever I want to put it there. So everything is floating in Power BI. This is also different from Tableau, for instance, because Tableau has these 2 options. You can make it floating, or you can, I think it's called tiled, so that you simply actually divide the canvas into certain areas. You could also do that, but in Power BI it's floating, and actually this is something I prefer because it's much easier simply to put my text where I want it. And there's of course also the format window here. So here I have these options. If I want to align certain objects, or I want to distribute them. So this is something you are familiar with from PowerPoint. You also know this. So you distribute horizontal objects or align them to the top, to the left, to the center. So all these options are there. Send backward, bring forward. So in case you want to actually use two different kinds of visualizations and put them on top of each other, you can do that here as well. So this is actually really easy, especially if you, as I said, have worked with Microsoft products before. And I guess that 99% of you have done this. So actually you should be really familiar with these kinds of options you have here. Okay. So from the home, of course, you could also go here. Currently it's grayed out because, as I said, I have no data in here so far, but you could create a new measure. This is something we will cover later on. You could create a new column in the data set, or in each of your tables if you want. You could also use a quick measure, and you could take a look at the relationships, but you could also manage the relationships in the relationships view when you click on here. And the final thing here is you could publish things. So in this case, if you have Power BI Desktop and you're using the free version, then you can only publish to Power BI Power BI Cloud in this case. So actually you can make it public on the web so everybody would see it. In case you acquire Power BI Pro, or you use Power BI within your company, then of course you could also publish it either to your own safe cloud environment, which is hosted by Microsoft, or you could acquire Power BI Premium, which is an option which would allow you to actually run Power BI on your own servers in your company, so on premise. And then you could also publish, of course, to this Power BI report server, it's called, and then you can share it with your organization, okay, without any cloud environment. So in case this is of interest for you. Okay, if I want to import shapes, of course, they are here, different kinds of shapes. So actually, again, that's the same as in PowerPoint. And if you want to import an image, simply click on the image symbol, and then your prompt to enter or to select the image, and you import the image. Okay, you will do that as well. Okay, and then we have here this first option here, where we can actually use any kind of visualization, and then we have different kinds of fields like values. If you want to put numerical values, for instance, if you create a pie chart, of course, then we want to insert maybe certain kinds of different kinds of foods, for instance, and the percentage of which they were consumed by people, for instance, or something like that. And we have the filter option, so we can filter. Again, we will go through all of these in later videos, but for now it's all about the interface itself, so you know exactly what you're dealing with. And then you have this kind of, I like to call it paintbrush. It's simply the format window here. If you click on it, then you have the options how you want to actually format your visual. And we will use this later on as well to make our visuals more appealing, right? But for now, what you can do, of course, is, because currently we have nothing selected, we only have the canvas itself, or the report view if you want, and we have some page information. We have the page size here. If I click on it, you can see, you can say 6943 or anything else, Cortana as well, letter, custom, page information, the name of the page. You could also actually change it here, or again, as I mentioned before, simply double click on it here. And you have actually the page background. So this is something you might work with, because currently it's white, of course, but you could also say, okay, I do not want to have white, I want to have it blue, and not only blue, maybe some transparency. So I scroll here, and now you have this light blue background, in case this is something more appealing to you. Or you could also add an image. So this is also possible, and add an image for the whole report view if you want to do this as well. And the great thing is, in case you want to change it or want to go back, simply click on revert to default, and everything gets actually, well, erased, and you get your white blank canvas again. Okay. So this is it for the home menu here as well. If you want to save it, of course, the classical save here. You have this smiley in case you want to send the feedback, a positive feedback to Microsoft that you like Power BI. Yeah, you can do that here. We have the view. In this case, this view is also really helpful. Of course, you could use to show grid lines. This is something you're also familiar with from PowerPoint. You have actually page view here, so you could also use these options here. And what you also have is the phone layout. The phone layout is quite interesting because whenever you've actually finished your report, so you have created your report, and now you want to also share the report to people who are normally using their phones, maybe for instance your superior or the management you want to share the report with, or simply your friends, wherever you want to actually use Power BI. You could use the phone layout here. So what you do is basically when you have your report, you click on this phone layout, and then you have this phone layout, and then you have here in this window to the right, you see all the visualizations you've created in your report. And what you simply do is you would drag and drop them into here. So and now I only have Hello Udemy, I have nothing more, but you would drag and drop them here, and then you can simply create the phone layout you want, okay? And then you simply use all the visualizations you want in the phone layout and drag and drop them, and then you see exactly, okay, what would the Power BI report, as soon as you publish it, how would it look like on your iPhone, for instance, or your Google Pixel or your Samsung, whatever. So I'm not not recommended by any smartphone, but here you can really decide how the report should look like on a smartphone device. Okay, so you have this option here as well. Okay, so I go back to desktop here, and the last thing is this modeling window you have here. We also will use this later on, but what you have again is manage relationships. You can take a look at the relationships again. This is something which you will find out very soon, in case you haven't noticed it yet or you don't know it yet. That a lot of commands in Microsoft Power BI are actually or appear more than once in the interface. So actually, you should always find it somewhere. So I don't know why they do it, but you've seen that before, managed relationships appears twice, and they're also in the query editor. For instance, if you take a look at this later on, then you will realize that there are also some options which appear several times. Okay, so maybe it makes things easier to find what you want to do very quickly. I don't know. But here in the modeling, you also have new measure again, new column. So in this case, we can again create a measure. We will do this later on. We create a column. We could create a new table if we want to do it. We can create a new parameter. This is what if analysis. So here we can, this is something we do later on. We can create scenarios. So in case, for instance, we have some kind of sales forecast, and then we say, okay, what could happen if the demand will increase or decrease, or what will happen if, for instance, we will increase the price. What would that mean? So we could play around with this. And in former times, you have had to do it with a certain kind of DAX function. So DAX is actually the language in Power BI, which was not difficult, but much more cumbersome. So now you have this new parameter, so what if parameter, and if I click on it, what I basically do is I could create a parameter here um, to use here, what if parameter. I could name my parameter, then I could say what kind of data type is it, whole decimal number. For instance, let's say here it's a whole number, start with a minimum, a maximum, an increment, and here you can have the option to add a slicer to the page. Okay, and the default value, if we want to say default value is 10, and I could click OK. And what I do here is I'm creating a slicer, so you can see it here, and that's what it looks like. I have a parameter here, and I could simply use it. So it starts from 0, goes to 20, and or I could insert it here directly, 15. And I could also play around. I could use a drop-down list if I want instead of that, or I could also use a list in here, yeah, and simply drag this and also format this, of course. And then I have my parameter, and then, for instance, I could play around. Let's say in this case, these were, if we would convert this into or create these with percentage values, then we could say, okay, what would happen if the price would increase of let's say 10%, and also the demand, in case of the price increase of 10%, the demand would be reduced for 2%, for instance. And what would this mean for all our numbers? Okay, we could do this here with these parameters, so with these interfaces. Okay, this is pretty easy. This is great because, as I said, it was not available the whole time, so at the beginning it was much more complicated. And I'll show you the old way as well in this Udemy course, but we will also use the parameter because it's simply easier and much quicker to do it this way. Okay, what else do we have? Well, we could sort here. This is something we will use when we use the query editor. So simply we will sort columns. For instance, you sometimes have the problem with the month names because normally they would be sorted alphabetically, and this is something you don't want. You want to start with January, you want to end with December, normally, of course, and then you could use this sort column to create really sorted month names, for instance, right? And here we have options how we can change data types. So in case Power BI recognized something as a string value, but actually it should be a number, then we could change the data type here. We could format it. This is something we will use later on as well. For instance, if we have sales figures, then of course we want to have them in dollars or euros or whatever kind of currency we're talking about. Or if we have, for instance, if this parameter is decimal numbers and we want to have them as percentage figures, we could also simply convert them here into percentage. Okay. The home table feature here from the properties, this is something we will use for the measure because we will create a measures table. This is simply for a better overview. So instead of having the measures in all kinds of different tables, we will create simply one table where we have all our measures, also all our calculations. In Power BI, measures are the calculations which we want to do, and we want to have them or store them all in one table because it simply gives us a better overview. However, of course, if you want to search for any kind of column in all of your tables, let's say you have 10 tables imported and you're searching for a specific column, then you of course you always have the option to use the search box here for the fields. Okay. What else? Well, we have this manage roles and the viewers roles. So the manage roles gives us actually a security option. This helps us simply, for instance, if you want to share your report and then you have some data which is, well, don't want to show the data to everyone, or you want to share the report, but certain rows in your data, for instance, should be protected, so should be hidden for a certain type of user or a certain type of group of users, then you could play around with the managed roles and decide, okay, what actually from data do you want to show to this other person, and what kind of data do you want to hide. Okay, so this is something you would do here with the security settings. Okay, so I guess this is it for the start of, well, introduction about Power BI. So we learned about the interface. In case you have any questions, of course, feel free to ask. But I'm going to tell you that we actually dive much deeper into all of these different kinds of things when we go into the visualization as well as the well, the calculation part when we create the measures. For now, this video was all about giving you really an overview of what is the interface of Power BI and what do all these different kinds of options mean. So hopefully you get something out of it, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Until then.